righty, we are back.
Fantastic. How are you guys doing? How's your week going? How's everything, guys?
Tremendous week. It's summertime in the Catskills.
Everything is good. We are here in this beautiful home and gorgeous studio, Scott Studio. We haven't been here in, 13 years?
Yeah, I would say.
It's been about 13 years since we were here, but a lot has changed and a lot hasn't changed. But yeah, we're here and we are ready to go.
Romeo is ready to go.
This is Romeo, by the way. So, Scott, tell us a little bit about Romeo.
Romeo is a rescued chi pin. He's half Chihuahua, half a mini pin, and he can be a really nice dog, and sometimes he can be a really mean dog. But right now he's being a very chill dog, so we're going to allow him to chill out on the table. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, Romeo likes to chill, and he loves the sun. That's what I noticed since I've been here.
He's a Chihuahua. They just love the heat.
Yeah.
He hates the cold, loves the heat.
Yeah. You have another dog named Scotch. He's not in the picture right now, but he's a very adorable, very friendly dog.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Amazing. Yeah.
So we are here. We've been we promoted this episode for a while. We've been looking forward to it a lot. It's definitely something that we wanted to do. Scott's been in our life for quite a few years. He was the director of photography at LaGuardia when we were there. And we wanted him to be our first guest.
Fantastic
so much,
photographer,
guys.
Amazing photographer. Not just a great professor and part of the school years, our school years. But I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about Scott, who he is.
All right. So our first guest today will be Scott Sternbach. Scott is an acclaimed photographer, filmmaker, an educator with over 40 years of experience. His work has been featured in the New York Times, The New Yorker, and Swiss Jazz Magazine, which he has shot over 60 jazz album covers, which is pretty impressive. Scott has traveled to remote locations, including Antarctica, Africa, and the Arctic. He's also a recipient of the National Science Foundation Antarctic Artist and Writers Award. Very impressive. Scott's work has also been exhibited in galleries and institutions around the world, and he also served as the director of the photography program at CUNY LaGuardia from 2000 to 2023. Am I correct?
We were very lucky to have him.
Absolutely. And he will soon be releasing a new documentary titled Polar Souls.
It's a little longer, the title, I believe.
Polar Souls of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge.
There you go. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Welcome to the show,
Thanks,
Scott.
Guys. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here. Always good to see you guys. The time back at LaGuardia was so wonderful with you guys and traveling with you guys.
Yeah.
It's just special to be here.
We'll talk a little bit about our trip to Chile back in 2012. That was definitely an adventurous trip.
Life-changing story. Let's see if you can take us back a little bit of your early years, and how did your passion for photography, get started?
Well, it's kind of a family thing, Great-grandfather, grandfather were both avid photographers. Neither was a professional, though, like myself, but really important to both of them. My grandfather, always was taking photos. There are always photos around, showing us photos from the last time he was there visiting. And then, when I was, I think, sometime around 9 or 10 years old, I found a box of old glass plate negatives. Ended up being the work of my great-grandfather. And they're not just family photos. He took landscapes. He was really excellent with lighting and portraiture and all that. I don't know. It just got in my blood, and I was exposed to it. We built a darkroom at 11 years old, and I was a yearbook photographer, newspaper photographer in high school. Even was making money when I was a teenager, photographing artwork, things like that for people. So, yeah, it's always been in my blood. I also was into music big time, which kind of links to like my early career. I was a trumpet player
Nice.
And actually, I'm trying to get back into it now in retirement, but
Nice.
it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And you don't want to hear me play now, I guarantee you.
Is it jazz kind of style or?
Yeah, when I was a teen, I was way into music, going to concerts and things like that. And one of my buddies' older brother turned us on to, I think it was Sketches of Spain by Miles Davis.
Yeah.
It's just really sophisticated, beautiful record with Gil Evans. And that was like my earliest, like, serious jazz listening. And then from there on, it was Coltrane and everybody else. And that's why I gave up trumpet. Because they were all much better than I was. I was good, but not that good. And that's where when I decided to choose photography.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, well, I mean, that was it's definitely a good decision. I mean, we would have never met you if you were probably a musician.
Probably
would have
not.
never been doing probably this.
Maybe we would have met you somewhere in the city, and like in a jazz club or something like that.
Maybe. You never know. I instead of photographing jazz musicians like I did early in my career.
What is it? Arthur's Tavern? Have you been to Arthur's Tavern in the city?
Oh, of course. Matter of fact, when I was 20, I helped put a hardwood floor in that place.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
look at that.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's
Small
great.
world.
Yeah, small world.
And I worked as a bartender and a busboy and a doorman and every job there was at Sweet Basil, which was right around the corner in the West Village, 7th Avenue South.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my access to jazz photography.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
That's awesome.
Yeah. I worked as a doorman too a while ago, back in 2003 or something like that. I got to see.
Is the West Village like the jazz? What do you call it? Is it like the jazz area of the city, or at least back in the 70s and 80s and 90s?
Back at that time, I'd say the predominant clubs were in the West Village. A couple in the East Village, some of them up in Harlem, but Village Vanguard,
Okay.
Sweet Basil.
Because I know I've been to a couple of jazz places in the West Village. So
Do you link back that time or that era with your way or like your storytelling, way of explaining your work or anything? Does it have any?
Well, I mean, because
impact on it?
because I was into music, and music tells a story. I think every song, in a way, tells a story. And I was photographing these musicians. I think, definitely music influenced my style as a photographer. How directly it did that, I don't know. Like the kind of sensitivity watching these musicians. And especially at the time, I was shooting on film. And you had to be very still and very patient. Like today, cameras today, it's ridiculous, 10 frames a second.
Yeah.
Shooting at like ISO 10 zillion.
nice.
Back then, I'm shooting, I'm pushing film. I'm
The good old
standing
days.
there.
The good old days of
one
photography.
shot at a time. I can even, like, one of my favorite shots is of the saxophonist Sonny Rollins. And I can still remember almost going blind taking that picture.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll show it on the podcast here. He was a saxophonist who would lift his sax up and down as he played. He'd go up and down, up and down. So much movement. So I'd have to keep timing it when he got to the top, he got to the bottom to get that image of him. And so I don't know, patience, just like the patience of those musicians and ability to sort of take photographs that are low key and then take photographs that have great impact, sort of that balance,
Yeah.
So maybe it influenced me. I don't know. Certainly everything influences,
Right.
And I was definitely immersed in jazz at the time. Yeah.
So how did you get connected with the jazz world and the shooting album covers and stuff like that?
Yeah. So like I said, I had this job at Sweet Basil, however you say it, on 7th Avenue South at Bleecker Street, right in the heart of the West Village. And there I was working 6-7 nights a week. I lived right around the block too. So it was like I was there all the time. And of course, when you're a bartender, all the musicians love you. At least the ones who like to drink, which at the time, the culture was such that people were drinking a lot of Remy Martin. Yeah, so, you know, I got to know the musicians, and then after my shift or my days off or whatever, I would bring my camera to work all the time, and, you know, they'd do 3 sets a night, and I'd be able to go in and, like, stand right next to the musicians and photograph to my heart's content.
Yeah.
As time went on, I'd start showing them the images, and they'd show them to their managers. And next thing you know, I'm in the New York Times. I'm 21 years old. I've got numerous pictures, you know, every month or so popping up in the Times because of all these famous jazz musicians that I've got great access to. Then, you know, I had a small studio at that time. I was 21 years old. I eventually got a bigger studio, and then I started inviting them up there. You know, just come on up, we'll take some portraits of you. And then they started calling me and saying, you know, I need a shot, I need a promo shot, I'm doing a new album. And then I hooked up with Uptown Records, which was the small record label that was put together by these 2 physicians who were like jazz lovers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And they made their money, you know, as an internist, and I don't know what the other guy did, but and they were a little bit nutty guys, but they liked me. I guess my price was right back then. Wasn't that expensive, and I was way into it, and I'd show up anytime, and I did quite, I don't know, maybe close to 40 records with that company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something like
but Uptown
that.
became a big record label.
That's a different one. That's the rap label.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of the rap label.
No.
So it's
not the rap label. It's a different label. It's a jazz label.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've worked on over 60 covers, some more or less.
Well, yeah.
Over 60 covers.
And liner photos and promo.
How does that creative process differ from your documentary or fine art work, or does it differ from it? Or, you know, again, I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's both. So, you know, shooting for the record company, they want liner pictures. Liner pictures almost journalistic. It's like what's happening in the studio usually, you know. And so I'd go to the recording sessions, and I was really fortunate. I got to go to Rudy Van Gelder's studio. And Rudy Van Gelder is probably the most famous recording engineer in jazz, and probably most of the great records that were done during like the 50s, 60s, 70s. He was one of the main guys. So I got to go over there. Actually, I photographed him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super cool to do that. So yeah, shooting in the studio, the liner photos, kind of like a journalist. And then album covers, depending on what they were looking for, you know. It could either be, you know, a shot against a backdrop in the studio, or take them out on location in New York City, anything like that. So it was a mix, you know. It was studio and sort of the journalism.
You have some pretty interesting album covers. I got to see a couple of them the other day, and there's one really interesting one where it's like you're shooting a musician right next to a cab, and you have this like light streaks coming from the background. Can you explain that photo a little bit for us?
That was my first record cover. It's Philly Joe Jones and Damaronia. That was the name of his band, and they were doing the music of Tad Dameron, who was a great composer back in the day, and had passed on at that point. It was, they'd done a 4th set at a little club in the West Village called Lush Life. It's another place I worked at. Yeah. And we got out, and we were about to hail a cab, and I always carried my camera, like I was saying, and the checker cab pulled up. Philly's wearing a checkered jacket. And I kind of spun and shooting about a 15th of a second. And so the background kind of blurred, 6 a.m., the lights coming up in the background. And the little flash I had in the camera froze Philly as he sort of faced me and gave me a little smile. And it just was like such a perfect shot.
It's an awesome shot.
So happy with it. So happy with it. Did it with a little teeny camera too. You know?
What were you shooting at the time?
It's a Minolta CLE. So it was a sort of an effort by Leica and Minolta to make an electronic camera, like one of the earlier versions of a camera that had an electronic shutter in it.
What film were you shooting at the time?
Probably
If you can
HP5 or
Tri-X 400.
I'm like
Tri-X
big
400.
advocate of Kodak here today. I don't know how that works out.
That is the student film right there, film stock.
Yeah,
Student film stock right there.
and the classic photojournalist film
Yeah.
too. But so
I
at
mean-
the time it was either HP5 or which is the Ilford 400 speed.
Yeah.
But that's most likely what I had in camera. Yeah.
Any flash at all, or is just natural light?
No. That's 6 a.m. It was dark out.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
I
okay.
had to pop a flash on that. And at the
Yeah.
time, so just out of college at that point, and I was practicing using flash and long exposures, that shake and bake technique.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was using a lot then. I really liked doing that. I did sort of my thesis in college at Ohio University using that technique, the shake
Nice.
and bake.
Oh.
So I had
Shake
been
and bake.
practicing with. I'd been practicing a lot with it. So that was like it all came together. That was
Yeah.
the decisive moment on that shot. It was my first record cover. It was cool.
Awesome.
And I showed it to Philly, showed it to his manager. Can we use that as a cover? And I was like, no. Yeah, of course. You can use it. I was like so thrilled, It's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Cool. That's amazing.
Definitely an awesome shot. And I mean, 60 album covers. I mean, you have to be really good to be shooting that many album covers for a record company.
Well, yeah. And I also work for Enja. It's a West German company. I think they're out of West Germany. Did quite a few records for them. Polygram. Did
Yeah.
some work for Polygram as well. Probably forgetting something too. So one of my favorite clients was Abby Lincoln. She was an actress. She was in a film with Sidney Poitier and did a couple of really excellent films. And the way I met her, I was working for National Public Radio. We were doing a syndicated radio show with my friend Jim Luce, and he was an entrepreneur, radio host, etc. And we went and did a story about all these different women in jazz. It was really cool. And that's how I met Abby. We went to her apartment on the Upper West Side, got introduced to her, and we just hit it off. And we became really good friends. She used to invite me up to her place. I'd go up there, bring my camera with me, photograph her, shot a couple album covers for her. And for, I don't know, a period of maybe 3 or 4 years, I was like her exclusive photographer. Every time she had a gig, I would go to it. It was really tremendous. Another really cool thing I could talk about is when I went to Africa. That was also facilitated by my friend Jim Luce. And he did this jazz tour where he took just people off the street who loved jazz, who wanted to pay to go and tour Africa. And we brought a bunch of American jazz musicians with us to Dakar. And they had a series of concerts, and we actually traveled down the coast to the African Club Med, and they had a concert there, and spent about 3 weeks in Africa with Pharoah Sanders and I can't recall, a bunch of great musicians. This was like 1984.
Yeah.
So that was one of my favorite experiences. And the way we topped that off was I had an exhibition of my work at the American Cultural Center in Dakar.
Nice.
And so my work got seen by all these African folks, and then I got to photograph the concerts. And while I was there, I actually got to travel throughout Dakar and Senegal, and see and photograph the country. And
that's awesome.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Great trip. So
you went from jazz, shooting jazz musicians and stuff like that. You didn't get into LaGuardia until 2000, correct?
End of 1996, I became an adjunct instructor there.
Gotcha. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the
Sure.
LaGuardia program?
Yeah, sure. It's so funny because I had no intention of teaching photography at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I just was a photographer and I had other interests and was doing my thing. But you know what? I was getting a little older, and the idea of not being a freelancer anymore, it was sounding really good. And then one day, right out here outside my studio, I see this couple walking up the road here. My friends Bruce and Susan, Bruce Brooks And we became great friends. He loved jazz, and he asked me to put an exhibition of my jazz work at LaGuardia College in 1996, I think it was.
Wow. I actually didn't know that.
We didn't know that. I didn't know that either.
That's how it happened. And at the time, the president of the college really liked jazz music. So it worked out. I had this show. It was well received. And then I guess that fall, they asked me if I wanted to teach a class. And I was like, never did it before. I had interns in my photo studio, and I did a stint in the restaurant business where I was a beverage manager, and I was the staff educator about wines and spirits and things like that. And I really got into it. So I did have a certain amount of experience being able to prep for teaching and all that, but had never done it in a college setting before.
Yeah.
So I did it, and somebody loaned me, Gary Volo, loaned me his syllabus and his basic photo test, and it was good. I didn't really have to do that much to it, and I got in there, and it was pretty easy for me because here I was having fun, talking about photography, and I've been doing it since the 70s, and so I did it, and they liked it, and then they said, "Oh, can you teach an intermediate class and a beginning class?" And I did that. And then they said, "What about studio lighting?" Sure, I know how to do that. I guess I can teach it.
Yeah.
And I did, and I just really got into it. And I'd had all these friends in the industry. I had a stuntman come in. I had all these actors and actresses, and they would come in and be models in my class. So it was it was more real than photographing each other in class. We did a lot of that too, but here they actually get to get people in the industry, get makeup artists coming in, people who are used to being photographed or experience in a professional environment. So that's how I got into it. And then in 2000, the former director, I don't know what the situation was, but they let him go or he quit or something like that. And they were like, "Want to be the director?" So it went from one class, to now I'm directing the program. Yeah. And it was a small program, had almost 70 students in it, 70 photo majors.
Yeah.
Took it over then, and one thing led to another, and just dug in and tried to dedicate myself to the students. That was the main thing. Yeah.
When they asked you to be the director of the program, was it overwhelming? What did you feel pretty comfortable? How was that? How was that?
Funny.
How was that change?
It wasn't overwhelming at all.
Really?
Because I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I did, but
so it was you were taking a shot, and it was whatever it is, it's going to be.
It's photography. Yeah, I know about this. I don't really have to think about it that much. It was not until later on that, in the beginning, it's like anything, kind of flying under the radar. It's a small photography program at a big college. Everybody left me alone. Could do almost anything I wanted there. And that was great, and that went on for years. And then we started getting more and more students. The program got larger and larger. By the time it was 2007, we'd outgrown our facility, and they needed to use that space for a high school.
Yeah.
So they moved us to a new building and built us. Well, let's see. You guys were in that facility.
What was
it?
A
Nice facility.
C building? D building?
B building.
B building.
It's kind of off a little bit.
I think they already.
C building.
That building has
building.
been already renovated.
Oh,
so
I'm
I don't know
sure.
what it is right now, but I know they renovated the entire building.
Well, we were there, 2 years ago, and we got to, it looked pretty similar to what we
I know, because
it hadn't changed much.
Yeah.
No, guys. So, anyway, they built us a beautiful facility, and that partially happened because I won the National Science Foundation Award. And in academia, that's a big, big deal.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a big deal because I got to go to Antarctica and photograph for 3 months, But for the college, it was like, oh, we've got a professor who won an NSF grant, and we can show them off. And sure enough, they did. They showed me off for a number of years. It was pretty good. And the program had 230 plus majors, and that's when you guys were my students.
Very lucky.
You were there at the peak
experience.
Almost.
You were at the peak. Yeah, you were in the middle, kind of in the middle of your career there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got the best of us at that time.
Yeah, and just to briefly, that gave me the opportunity then to go for this study abroad.
Yeah.
Thing that you guys were a part of, going to Chile, and I took groups to Alaska.
Yeah.
Took a group to Louisiana. I even took a student to Antarctica with me, just one student. And then my Arctic project brought students with me there, and after going there for many, many trips. Yeah.
Life-changing trip, definitely for us. I got to experience a lot of,
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about the story behind the Antarctic Artist and Writers Award from the National Science Foundation?
Sure. So, let's see. I talked to you guys about Polar Souls. That's where Polar Souls started. Actually, I called that Antarctic Souls.
Yeah.
That was the original name of it. And, I'd been thinking about going to Alaska. And then in my inbox, in my college inbox, I get this email about this award, the National Science Foundation Arctic Writers Award and Artists Award. And I looked at it and I said, it's me. That's the award that I need to get.
Yeah.
I swear to God, that's what I said to myself.
Yeah.
And so I spent the next 6 months writing the proposal. I literally did. And actually got a little bit of help from Maureen Drennan.
Yeah.
She was just a student at the time, but she already had a degree, and she was a good writer. And she helped me write a little piece of it, and put the proposal together, sent it out to National Science Foundation the first time, and I didn't get it. It's a good learning experience. So, do you give up?
Absolutely not.
No.
Never give up.
Don't give up.
Never give up, guys. Never
Don't give up. Yeah, so I spoke to the cool thing about that award is you get to speak to the project manager in DC. So I called him. Actually, it was a woman at the time, right? Because I spoke to a number of different people there, but I spoke to her, and she said, apply again. She said, you were so close.
Wow.
Like, they wanted to give it to you, but they didn't have enough awards to give out. And they told me the truth about it. Said, don't hardly change it. Just address what they spoke to you about in the reviews. So I addressed that. One of the things was, what's wrong with you? Why would you want to take an 8x10 camera to Antarctica? It's like too hard. We think you're off there. And I explained to them, Ponting, so many photographers had been there with large format cameras. Back in, Frank Hurley, the Australian, he was on the boat that got stranded on the coast of Antarctica for like 18 months. And he still kept taking pictures. So I was like, if they could do it, it's a piece of cake for me.
You mean capsizing? You wanted to do it again?
Oh, that's a story we got to tell.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
you did two things.
So anyway, I rewrote and addressed their issues, and sure enough, the next year I got it in 2008, and had to go for orientation in Colorado. Met the other artists who were going there, which was also amazing experience. Still know some of those people. And I got to go to Antarctica in, I guess it was October of 2008.
Okay.
I think it was 2008 or 2009. Yeah. And I was there for 3 months. I had my own darkroom. And I lived on base on Anvers Island, which is it's Palmer Station. And there are about 35 people there. It's very small. A lot of these amazing researchers, scientists, etc. And my project was about photographing the people with the camera. That was the main part of the project. I went all the way to Antarctica. Instead of concentrating strictly on the landscape, which is pretty spectacular, and the wildlife, it was the Antarctic souls, the people who were down there, and I wanted to talk to them and find out what they were all about. I called them the heroes of maybe climate change, because they were down there. That's what they were studying, and it was pretty cool. Yeah. So, I was there for 3 months, and then when I got back, I had a lot of success with the project, and I was able to put it up in the Museum of Natural History.
Is that one of the shots?
Yeah, that's good. Right behind us. That's
Beautiful
my friend
shot.
Kristen Gorman behind us. Yeah, so she was a biologist working there, studying penguins and seabirds. And I went out in the field with her a number of times, and one of her colleagues. And they were out there counting penguins, capturing penguins, not hurting them, but studying them, taking blood samples, things like that. And unfortunately, what they were finding was the decline of the penguins in that area because it was warming, and things were changing, and they were starting to disappear.
Yeah.
Was also that the camera that you used?
Yeah.
Yes. This is the exact camera. That's
right,
the
fantastic.
Wisner.
So mostly for most of these projects that you've been working on, you've been mostly shooting a large format.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I use all my cameras, and I do shoot. I probably have thousands of frames with the Canons and Sonys, digital cameras, because I don't just take those static portraits and landscapes, but most things I do include that camera.
Yeah.
Lately, not as much, just because it's so heavy, and I've had back issues.
Yeah.
But
Knee surgeries.
knee surgeries, back surgeries, shoulder surgeries.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm sort of getting ready to do it again. I am. A project we didn't talk about is this project I worked on up here. That's about the local dairy farmers. And
You want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So you guys want to know a little bit about my project up here? I like doing these projects is like in places that are like the most remote places on Earth, like Antarctica, the Arctic, Patagonia, wherever. Love going those places. But I also feel like it's really important to have projects close to home so that you can work on them easily. You can go out your front door and start working on them. You don't have to travel 5,000 miles or 8,000 miles round trip and expend all your life savings. So, so I've worked on projects in Jersey City, that's where I was living for the longest time, and a project up here in the Catskills. Originally, I called it Delaware County Line, and I was basically studying the dairy industry within the borders of Delaware County. More recently, though, I felt like I should expand it a little bit, not just have the border. And also I wanted to sort of align it with my other projects, Antarctic Souls, Polar Souls, and now Rural Souls.
Okay.
And basically I've been, since around 2000, taking either an 810, or at the time I was using a Linhof, I don't know if it was a 4x5 or 6.9 camera, and Hasselblads, and going out to the farms and just meeting people and sort of giving them a voice to talk about what it's like being a farmer here in today's industry, where corporate farming is, the thing that's
We were here in 2013, and we camped out for a night. And I remember the next day you took us out. You took us out to like some of the your neighbors and these farms, and there's quite a few interesting people here. And
Very interesting. Yeah,
Understatement.
it was great.
yeah.
Like my friends, the Hagers.
The Hagers.
Hager Farm.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time over there, and I don't know, they have between 600 and 800 dairy cows, and I don't know, they just have their own way of thinking, their own way of life, and I was really influenced by Walker Evans, and the work he did during the 1930s, and the sharecroppers and all that, and I don't know, that work just moved me so much that when I moved up here, or when I bought the house up here, I was immediately interested in the local folks. And,
Let me ask you a question before we jump into a different topic, without disconnecting from the education. I'm just curious regarding the. You said you were not in academia, right? And you didn't think you were going to do that. So my question is, were you able to merge eventually in the program processes from other schools? You know, being that you were there, we are doing a lot of projects, right? As photographers. I mean, every photographer is pretty much, whether it's like documenting or just creative process, whatever. But within the teachings of the school, you know, did you merge or like, I mean, it shows a lot of your passion for photography and the, you know, regular process of a photographer. But were there any major changes that you think influenced, you know, the program when you were there or as a photographer, you know, or that, you know, you maybe merged it or you took it from another school? You know, it's a certain, you know, it's got a structure. So
even though I didn't plan on being a teacher, I did go to college, and I went to like three different institutions. But early on, I studied at Ohio University. That was a school that was set up by Clarence White in the 1920s, who was you know, Stieglitz's contemporary. So that school always had like a long history of photography. And so that was very serious there. So even though I wasn't planning on being a teacher, I went through the classic critiques, and yeah, I still saved my syllabi from back then, the ones, especially the good ones, just because I wanted to keep them.
Yeah.
So you had that, and then the new school, you know, a guy named Julio Mitchell, one of the most hardcore photographers you'll ever meet, was one of my instructors. And Lisette Modell, you know, Larry Fink's teacher, Dion Arbus's teacher, and, you know, that was golden. And so I did, like, I kind of taught like they did, I felt like. The way I was taught, I kind of passed that on. And then I studied with Arnold Gasson, who is like a master, a true master. And he was a contemporary of Ansel Adams, lived out in Colorado. And yeah, so I did definitely.
I guess the question was just more curiosity about, you know, what your influence is and, you know, who you are as a photographer, you know, and actually that I want to know more also as, you know, besides, you know, the professor and you know, the friend that I
was thinking about which photographers, any specific photographers that influenced you. You mentioned Walker Evans, you know, for the work that you're doing up here in the Catskills. Any other photographer that we know of, famous photographers that influenced your work?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the usual suspects, you know, Bresson, Frank, Arbus, especially because, you know, I tried to emulate her when I was in college. You know, I went out with a flash in Washington Square Park. I have photographs from that.
We're just there.
Yeah, I went down with my Hasselblad, or no, it was an RB67, even bigger camera.
Okay.
Beautiful. Taking an RB, you know, like a Vivitar flash, and you know, meeting people and meeting really wild and crazy people. Unusual.
We just had a little crazy episode, you know, where we were talking about it, and you know, when one of the subjects that I had, remember, was like, you know, because I was, you know, facing the people, you know, and
we were talking about
faced on.
We were talking a little bit about shooting street photography, and I was telling Sebastian and Johnny that I can't shoot with I have a Rolleiflex, a twin lens reflex, and I don't feel comfortable shooting with it, and I feel like it's more of a studio type of camera for me. The reason being, and I know, like, you know, Vivian Meyer and, you know, photographers like Diane Arbus and all these older photographers at the time in the, you know, in the 70s and 80s were shooting with like medium format street photography. But for me, it just feels like it's like you're not you're being seen too much with these big cameras. At least now they're kind of big. Maybe at the time they weren't. But,
I differ from that because I believe it hides you from, you know, it's easier to go, like, I don't know. And that was
it's a different way. It's just approaches. You know, Robert Frank shooting from the hip, that people don't know you're being being
Right.
photographed
Right.
usually,
Yeah.
versus Bruce Davidson.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? East 100th Street project, where he decided to shoot almost primarily with a 4x5 because he did not. It was not his population. He's like a white dude, and he's going into this Latino and African American neighborhood, and wanted to like really know the people and connect with them. So he for 2 years, you know, walked around there, got to know people, went into their apartments, went to rooftops, 4x5 all the way. So there's no way to steal a picture. Everything was, can I take your picture? This is why I'm doing it. Getting people to trust him. And so, you know, you had asked about what photographers. So Bruce Davidson also was teaching right when I came to LaGuardia in '97.
Right.
Nice.
He was there for, I think, a year and a half or 2 years.
At LaGuardia?
At LaGuardia.
Wow.
Yeah, you guys missed
Wow.
him. Sorry. You missed him.
For a couple of years.
Yeah, a
wow.
couple of years. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. You needed to be born earlier.
Yeah.
But he was there. I got to meet him. I didn't really, you know, it was in passing. We were both adjuncts, but it was cool. His syllabi would be laying around and his assignments.
Yeah.
And yes.
Was he?
I used them, not then, but I used them like near the end of my career. I was like, let's try something different. I've got this like assignments from Bruce Davidson. Let's try this assignment and just self-examination. It was very psychological, the stuff. It was less technical, more psychological, which was really cool to get students to really think about who they are. You know, what's their identity as a photographer versus the technique stuff, you know? I thought that was really cool, and especially near the end of my career. I was like, I'm always about technique, but I thought it was really important to, you know, it's more about, like, what's your passion, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and try to figure out what that is. Otherwise, you could be lost.
Yeah. You kind of moved from the Catskills. You have a place in Jersey City as well. How long have you been in Jersey City?
22 years.
Wow.
Had a place there for 22 years, I believe, now. Yeah, and then I lived there before that, too. I was a renter.
So you grew up you grew up in New Jersey. What area of New Jersey did you grow up in?
Union, New Jersey. Beautiful Union. Not to be confused with Union City. This is Union.
Yeah.
Route 22 in the Garden State Parkway.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like middle New Jersey or southern New
It's
Jersey?
only about 18 miles south of Manhattan. It's close.
Oh, okay.
It's
Nice,
south
right
next
there.
to Elizabeth, Kenilworth,
Gotcha.
that area,
My
Springfield.
parents lived in Elizabeth for a very long time. So
Yeah.
Feel sorry for them for that.
So it's Union and Union City, huh?
they were just close to the city.
Me too. I hated living there growing up. I was, you know, as a teenager, like, I want to be anywhere but here. I think that's true for almost a lot of young people anyway. But, you know, to me, it was just suburbia. I liked either, like, wilderness. Even then, I was so into wilderness.
Yeah.
Either a wild
or the
city,
city.
or a wild city or a wild environment.
So as soon as I got my driver's license, I had this Mustang. Like, used to.
What do you mean
All
Mustang?
right, Mustang,
what about the
baby.
Camaro? Yeah,
I couldn't
come on,
afford a
what's
Camaro.
Listen, I had two Mustangs, and I had two Mustangs I had them for like 10 years each.
Believe me, you didn't have one like this.
So yeah,
It cost us $400, and it was burning oil. But it was my first car.
V8. What was it? A V8?
It was a V8,
Yeah,
It was a V8,
nice.
and 67.
Nice.
But anyway, why was I... I take it into the city to hear jazz.
Yeah.
Ali's Alley. It was Rashid Ali, who was Coltrane's drummer, had this little, like, beat club in Soho. So, like, these 16-year-olds, me and my buddies who loved jazz,
Yeah.
would go in, you know, use our fake IDs, get some beer, and go listen to jazz in the city. So yeah,
So you
it
have
was
this
nice at least being close to the city, even though I didn't love Union.
So you have this project in Jersey City.
Monticello. Yeah,
Monticello.
yeah. I have laid off it a lot late. I haven't really shot it all for it, but back in like mid 2000s, I was way into it using the 810 camera. And really pretty hardcore about it. I was going into like small businesses in the area, taking the 810, taking my Speedotron packs, setting up lights, everything to take these photographs in really tight places. It was insane. But got some really nice work out of it, though, and got to exhibit it a bit. It hasn't, I want to make a book out of it, but it's really cool because, I live, like, we moved into a neighborhood that, is basically a depressed neighborhood. Like, most of the storefronts were gone. A lot of storefront churches, a lot of liquor stores, a lot of haircutting places.
Yeah.
Like that, a lot of like that. And I felt like, it was in a period it was going to become gentrified, but the people who lived there were the neighborhood, and they were cool people, and I wanted to learn about them. So I went to storefront churches, like soul food restaurants, a plumbing store, a bodega, and just people I met on the street. And it's a nice little project and some nice portraits out of it. And, I don't know, maybe I'll go back to it, maybe not. But I'd certainly like to make a small book out of the work I have from that project. And I'm friendly with a lot of those people. Unfortunately, like some of them, I've seen them decline, from drugs and stuff. There's one guy in particular, Spider.
So speaking of projects, you have a current project you've been working on, and it's a documentary of basically multiple trips that you've done to Alaska. The documentary is called Polar Souls, and you have a longer name for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Antarctic project started as Polar Souls too. Yeah. So to make them specific, I have to designate the place. And it's the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge.
Gotcha.
Or some people maybe recognize it as Anwar, but that's the ugly name for it. Don't like to use it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So so this is like my magnum opus grand project. This is the one when I was 20, I thought of it. When you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about.
So pick up the newspaper. No, what is it? The article? It's a newspaper or a magazine?
So I was 20 or so, and I was bartending to make money, going to school, and I happened upon this article in the Times about the Arctic Refuge and how they were fighting at that time to keep it a wilderness area. In particular, this area by the coast that was very sacred to the local, well, not so much local Native Americans, but the Native Americans, the Gwich'in, who live high in the mountains because their food comes from the coast. This is where the caribou, they're called the caribou people, that's where the caribou go to have their babies. So this is their sacred place. They don't go there. They don't camp there. They don't hunt there. They leave that place alone, and they believe that place is God's place. It is a place that people maybe can visit to view it, but not even. It's like leave everybody out of there and let the animals have one last place on Earth that we do not, go drill in, extract minerals, hunt, whatever, just to leave it a true wilderness area. So I was intrigued by that place because at the time I was way into backpacking. I just wanted to get away. I always went to wilderness areas, even when I was 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, always trying to get away. Matter of fact, there's another project in this where I went to Mexico.
Oh, okay. Nice. I don't know if I've heard about this project.
I went to Mexico for 7 months in my pickup truck with my buddy. My buddy was the writer. I was the photographer. Just read On the Road. And we just drove down there, lucky to come out alive.
I think I've heard of it. I think you mentioned it back in the days, back in the school days.
Yeah. Anyway, how did I get on that?
Well, speaking about that, and we're going to get to Polar Souls for sure. We'll talk about it. But I actually want to hear a little bit about, we're going to go back a little bit. You, maybe when you were in your teens or in your 20s, you kind of hitchhiked around the country?
That was my, first true exercise in like doing a photographic project. Again, it was like sort of influenced by Robert Frank, probably, I'm sure it was. And my buddy and I, my friend Paul, we hitchhiked out of I don't know where somebody dropped us off outside of New York City. And we hitchhiked up to Maine.
Yeah.
Like, met all these amazing people, like, slept, in a house for a few days with some potato farmers in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Went up to Maine, illegally camped in the cliffs. It was great. Illegally camped in the cliffs of Acadia, because we were hitchhiking. We didn't have you couldn't see our parked car. We didn't have a car. Then we went across Canada.
Yeah.
Went to the nickel mines with the guy named Lucky Kelly, who picked us up and drove with us.
Lucky Kelly.
Lucky
Oh my God, what a name.
I have photographs of all these people.
Somebody's gonna take that up and use
Lucky
it.
Kelly.
Lucky Kelly. That's an awesome name.
Yeah, he was cool.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy, Fast Eddie the Lobster Barrel. I mean, this was great. I was like 19 and hitchhiking with my buddy.
No way.
And we had like really good luck.
Yeah.
Like most people treated us well. We had a couple incidents, but overall it was pretty good.
What was hitchhiking like? I mean, now it's like hitchhiking is like it's something you just don't do. But at the time, was it like something that was normal at the time, or was it just
you don't do it in America? You still do it back there in South America.
Yeah,
so.
There's some places it goes on, but not. It's not. Yeah,
definitely not a thing. Yeah.
Was it safer then? Probably, and it was more prevalent that people did that, especially young people. But, John Wayne Gacy was around. So luckily we didn't go through wherever he was, Indiana or somewhere in the middle. We were up north in Canada, no like psycho killers.
Yeah.
But I guess it was a possibility. But yeah, and then, we dropped down to Minnesota to visit our friend Keith Matson, guy from high school.
Yeah.
And he said, I just got back from riding freight trains to the California coast. And we're like,
he was doing the same thing, just in the opposite side of the country.
Yeah, and we're like, oh, cool. He said, well, I'll tell you how I did it, and he did, and we went to the rail yard and talked to some of the linemen there, and they told us which train to get on, and next thing I know, we're riding like across the top of the country on Burlington Northern trains, so like with the big picture window, and photographing the whole time. It was really cool. Yeah.
So I've seen a couple of those photos, and I was always interested in hearing about this story because I've never, I don't think you have ever told it to us. But so you took a camera, you had a camera, and you were documenting the whole trip.
I had a Canon Pelix.
Canon Pelix.
That was it.
I can't say I am familiar with that camera at all, but
Johnny
knows about it. Johnny has.
We'll insert the commentary where Johnny just explains that camera for like 2 minutes.
Canon Pelix was at the time like just a basic 35 millimeter camera that had a pellicle mirror in it. So instead of a mirror that flips up and down, had a mirror that's semi-transparent, so the light actually passed through the mirror.
Wow.
And so it had kind of an accurate meter, because I guess the meter was like flipped down right behind the actual mirror. So it's actually reading exactly what the film was getting. So that was cool. Also, it had less shake because it didn't have a flipping mirror.
Wow.
Of course, I don't know if that's the reason I bought it. I was 19. It was like on sale, and I think by the end of the trip, the mirror started to flake away. That's what happened to them. I think that's why they discontinued them. But anyway, it worked. And that was the camera I used, and photographed on the freight train.
Film.
Oh, there wasn't anything else.
All the way.
Tri-X 400.
Tri-X 400. Yeah, no, there was nothing else at that time. There was no digital. So yeah, it was strictly film.
I mean, what film were you shooting?
Oh, what film? Yeah, probably Tri-X. It's Tri-X or HP5. I don't know. Actually, the negatives are sitting right over there. We can check it out.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm actually it's funny, some people I've met recently, like I was out in Oregon at an Airbnb, and the woman looked me up and she writes me a comment. I like your work. I really like your work, especially the stuff from like 1978. I didn't know whether to be insulted or feel happy about it. No, it's cool. It's of interest, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's like the first thing. Now I'm retired. I built the studio, kind of settling in. I think the first project I'm going to work on now that I'm publishing the movie, because that's really the first project. But that's now almost done, pretty much, just submitting it. So, I think I'm going to make a book out of the U.S. trip photos and print, like rescan everything and see what's there. Because what I've been finding is that like I'm looking at my work from way back when, and I missed great photos. Like what I thought was really great then, I have a lot more experience now at finding and what's a good photo, and I'm seeing things that I didn't know were really good then and better able to tell the story.
I kind of feel the same way. I feel like, looking back at you, sometimes you look at back at your work, and I'm getting older a little bit now, so I can look back 10 years and look at some work where it's like, I wish I would have done something a little bit different than that. And
Sure.
Yeah, so I kind of understand, and I feel you on that, on having, maybe thinking back and like maybe have it done a different way. So
well, but he's
understand.
actually saying that he's looking back and saying, wait, this was actually great. This some of the work that he thought it was not so good, or maybe he just missed picture because he had a different eye. His eye wasn't as mature or as experienced or as evolved,
exactly.
as it is, at the moment or right now. And you probably, you see it, you don't see something special, but now you're like, oh my God, look at this.
Wow, that was a great photo.
It was a great photo. And,
Did I take that? Yeah. And like what you're saying, I mean, hindsight's 20/20, so like you can go back and
it recently happened to me with starting to pick up my drawings and paintings and some of my work, and I'm like, how did I put this together? Like, where did I start? Like, and some of the pictures, I have no clue. Some of the paintings, I have no clue where I even started. But I'm like, that's pretty good. Like it's a decent type of work.
Well, I've heard like Bob Dylan recently being asked about. There's a famous interview with him where they're asking like, could you do the work you did back then? All these great songs now, and he's like, no, I don't even know how I did it. Really, I mean,
you know what it is?
It was like came from somewhere.
It's all your experience. It's like what you're feeling at the time, what your life is like at the time.
At the point is intuition, literally. It's just some of those shots are pretty much something that just your intuition took, but your untrained eye could not discover what your actual, yourself, your guts, your DNA, the knowledge that comes from, all the, millions of years of evolution,
exactly.
Are giving you and putting you at that particular moment. And then you're just shooting and you shoot. And this is why it's great to just keep on shooting and just don't stop.
Absolutely.
Same with painting or any type of sculpture. You don't stop doing it because that's going to, one, give you experience, and two, you're not going to know what your younger self created that was actually created from, the experience that was already there within you, from the, just evolution,
Yeah.
And that's something that we have nowadays that obviously every generation has their own, their own path, their own time and evolution, but this is, crazy. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it was a different life for me back then, and I had different experience, and I was young and had different types of energy and was naive and, kind of a virgin with a camera in a way. Whereas
what do you
jaded.
find different like on those images that you're actually finding good that you didn't pick up back then, for example, or something that can pop in your head?
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, I was able to choose most of the best images.
Right.
It's just like some of them, are just, I maybe question then, is that good enough? Was it cropped? Did I frame it right? Now I look at it and I'm like, it is good. The questions I had for myself
back then. That's great to know.
Yeah, I really think. I mean, what am I seeing different now? I'm just like finding a few more. You don't get that many great images.
Yeah.
Anytime you.
But you're lucky. You're also lucky to get to a point. Experience years and non-stopping and gives you the gift of being able to actually see your back in time, your work, and criticize it, and you're fortunate enough to to do that. That's I believe that's
no, I feel really fortunate now because so many of the people I grew up with are not even alive anymore.
Well, we brings us to some of the Polar Souls, images and the people there, right? That were taking pictures and are no longer there.
Well, that's really that's a tough one up there. I mean, living in the Arctic is rough.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. It's very tough life on many levels. I mean, just living in cold and being so remote, it's just really, really rough. And then add in the Native American experience, the tragedy of the Native American experience. And there's a lot of collateral damage, I'll say. So over the course of 14 years, there's a memoriam at the end of the film, and there's too many names on it.
Yeah.
I knew all the people on that list. I mean, I didn't list people I didn't know.
All right. So, talking about Alaska and your trips there, tell us a little bit about your Polar Souls project.
Well, I mean, should we start at the beginning? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I already mentioned, this is the project that I thought of when I was 20, and it took me till I was, 2011. So how many years is that? I don't know. I was in my 40s or something, late 40s. It took a long time for it to come to be, but it was I was always kind of knew I was going to do it. I never gave up on it and figure it out. And it's funny, so I wrote this grant to CUNY. They have some different levels of grants, and I went for the bigger one, and I got it. And I said, wow, I'm going to Alaska. I'm taking 2 students with me.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is fantastic. Another, success with grant writing. So I got some money, and then I was like, well, now I actually have to find out if they want me there. This is like a village in the middle of the mountains that you have to fly into in, the Brooks Range of Alaska. So I started doing some research. I wrote some emails because you could find email addresses for the tribal council in the village. No one wrote me back. So then I called Fish and Game, the Fish and Game office in Fairbanks, Alaska, which is the closest town to the village. And I got a woman who's Gwich'en, who worked there, and she said, oh, here's the phone number for just call them up there in the tribal office, and somebody will pick up. So I called, and I get Marguerite Gimmel. I didn't know her name at the time, and she's totally nonchalant. I was like, hey, I'm this photographer from New York. Want to come up there and take some pictures. And she's like, hold on. Hands the phone to Charlie Sweeney, who's the local hunter and sort of one of the mouthpieces there for anti-drilling and preserving the refuge. So he gets on the phone, he's totally relaxed, and I'm like, hey, I said, who's this? He goes, Charlie. And he said, hey, I said to him, I want to need a place to stay. I want to go out into the wilderness. I want to photograph. I want to learn about the caribou, etc. He's like, okay, come on. I said, all right. What do I need to know? He said, nothing. Just come on, we'll take care of you. I said, you got a place for me to stay? He said, yeah. And sure enough, 2.5 months later, I had 2 of my best students, Q and Dora, and we flew into Fairbanks, and then we got on a Cessna and flew up to the village, and there's Charlie waiting with his quad and a wagon, and had tons of gear, and drove us up this little cabin in the edge of the place, and it was amazing. And okay, Dora, you can stay in your own little room there because she was the woman.
Yeah.
And then Q and I stayed together in this teeny little room, on these beat up old mattresses. And there we were in the house. And, at first it was $25 a picture, you can't take my picture unless you give me $25.
Oh, really?
And I was and I said, this is a big test. I know it is. It's a test. And then they made us dinner, and it was I can't remember. Did she make a check? We're at a restaurant. And it was an exorbitant amount of money. And I started laughing. I said, well, I guess we'll be leaving tomorrow because I'm a teacher and these are students, and we don't have just enough money to get here basically and pay for the film. And they're laughing. They're like, oh, okay, we're just testing you.
Okay.
We want to see, maybe you got some money to spread around up here because,
absolutely.
they're not rich. So it was cool, and they were great. And we just got really close with Marion and Charlie, the couple that owned the house, and their family, and got to know everybody. And there were a couple little moments where people were like, who are you? Why are you here? Are you here to hunt caribou? We're like, no. We're here.
Total opposite.
Yes, we're
Total
here to
opposite of that.
sort of give you guys a voice, and also I'm here as an educator because I want to bring back my photographs to the city and let people know what's going on. So that was 2011, summer 2011, and we were there for 2 months, just over 2 months, and they had a gathering of all people in the Gwich'in Nation from across Canada and Alaska, and that was a really great experience. They were, speaking about the issues that they were facing, and people came from all over the world for that, actually, indigenous people. So, it was a great overall experience the first time I was there, and we traveled upriver, went on hunting trips. I mean, totally immersed in it, and we got very close. I mean, they were crying and we were crying when we left.
Yeah.
That's how close we got. And then it was a few years till I was able to afford to go back. That's what it was. Because it's basically, a little bit of grant money. And I did a GoFundMe and was able to go back in 2015. So it took me 4 years to go back.
Yeah.
Went back for a couple more months in the winter or end of the winter, spring. And like spring there is like winter up here in the Catskills, 10 feet of snow, even more, 20 below zero, northern lights, the whole 9 yards, and they have a carnival. And like when the light starts coming back, they have this nice carnival with all kinds of games for the kids, bow and arrow, snowmobile races, you name it. They had all kinds of cool stuff going on. So we got to experience the cold, the darkness, the carnival. We had access to a snowmobile so we can go up river on the frozen river and photograph landscape.
Yeah.
Another, amazing time we had there.
There's some beautiful shots that you have, some drone shots that were gorgeous of that landscape. My question to you is, what were some of the unexpected challenges that you had in the making of the Polar Souls? I know initially you didn't go there to shoot a movie. It was a project about the people and, just kind of documenting, photographing their lives there. But what were some of any unexpected challenges that you faced throughout this project?
Well, I was naive when I first got up there. I was like, oh, they're going to accept me and I'm going to be able to photograph freely. And it wasn't like that for everybody. There were a lot of people that are like so used to being exploited, that it's like they just didn't want me there. I can talk about it was 2018 when I was there, when I had... I don't know. A lot of the people I knew were not in the village. They were in Washington, D.C. lobbying.
Okay.
So, and there was a lot of meth that had found its way into the village. And we were staying at Marion and Charlie's house, but Marion and Charlie weren't there. They were in Fairbanks. So it got a little creepy and scary. Like people drinking, coming in with guns. It was scary. And then we ended up moving. We went to some other friends, some good friends of ours who lived across town in a little log cabin, and we went there. But one afternoon, I was walking, and nobody's around a lot of the time. And this gentleman, I won't mention his name, rolls up on me with his quad and says, "You need to leave." And I was like, "Why? I mean, we were invited to come, People like us here." And he goes, "No, you need to leave." He goes, and then he says to me, he pulls up his shirt. He's got a .45 caliber revolver. He goes, "You shoot, I shoot." Pulls the gun out. Didn't quite point it at me, kind of away. And I was like, this guy could kill me now and drive me in the mountains and let me be eaten by bears.
No one will ever know.
Yeah, exactly. And that could be the case there. But he didn't kill me. And I went back and I told them what happened. And sure enough, they like called the state troopers and they came and got him. And they asked if I wanted to press charges. And I said no. I said no. I don't want any trouble. And I understand, man. I'm an outsider. Even after I thought about it longer, I think he had an encounter with one of my assistants. And it wasn't a good encounter because he kind of... Anyway. So, yeah, I did run into like near-death experiences more than once. I did have one guy who was high on meth who was just walking.
I shoot.
Yes. Yeah, I'll never forget that. And I did have another guy who was just so high on meth. And he was the guy that I'd photographed and been friendly with. And next thing I know, he has like a Bowie knife in his arm and he's like coming at me with it. So, yeah, I've had some Wild West adventures in Arctic Village. But those are like... Really, that's it. Everything else pretty much was good. And I just had to learn. And I really was, I came from like this, the sensibility, the way I was taught is that no one tells you what to edit. It's like Cartier-Bresson. No one can tell me which pictures to publish, but then, and I kind of felt that way when I was there in 2011. But then I thought about it over the years and I was like, I don't, I could really affect these people with my photographs. If they're taken the wrong way in a public forum, it could really be bad for them. And they had Sarah James, who was one of the elders there, had asked me, she said, before you publish anything, you should show it to us so we can tell you what you should take out. And at the beginning, I was like, that's ridiculous. I could never do that. And then in the end, I was like so glad that I remembered she said that. And I went back and 2022, and I screened the film, earlier version of it, for the Village to see it. And I did it with her as well, individually. And she said she liked the movie. And there was just like two things to take out. It was one where like the genitals of a caribou were being shown while it was being slaughtered. And she said, we never show that. And then there was another scene where someone was shooting at a caribou and you could see it being shot. And he said, we never show that. I said, oh, I respect that. So I just took it out of the movie.
So explain.
Interesting. That's very,
Yeah. Explain a little bit about what the caribou mean to the people in Alaska, to the people in this environment. What does the caribou mean to them?
Well, their name, I believe, in their language means caribou people. Don't quote me on that. Sorry about that if I'm wrong, folks up in Arctic Village.
We'll look it up.
But I know they call themselves.
Listing works.
They're known as the caribou people.
Yeah.
And it's because, before modern technology and oil and gas and snowmobiles and Western human influence.
That's how Santa got to freaking the rest of the world.
That's right. On a back of a caribou. No, so they were like used every part of the caribou, and they didn't have guns, and they didn't use bow and arrows. They're not known for that. They would corral them. They'd take trees, cut them down, those pines they have up there, the scrub pines, and run them into these places that they couldn't get out, and then seal them up, and that's it. And they were nomadic. They didn't live in Arctic Village. Arctic Village was one of the places they lived, and they moved with the food, So
well, the caribous travel a lot, So
yeah,
they
travel.
that,
Like as Charlie will tell you, they travel as the furthest of any animal in at least the deer family. I think that's what he's referring to in the movie, is that they travel from Maine to Georgia and back, that distance. They're not in Maine and they're not in Georgia. But that's what he means, is that it's like 3,000-4,000 mile migration, something like that.
Yeah.
And they rely on it. Even to this day with, they can get food from the mainland and all that. But they prefer caribou meat, moose meat. It's a big celebration. Like Charlie's a really great hunter. My friend Jimmy John's an excellent hunter. These guys, go out and they bring back, 5-6 caribou or a 2,000-pound moose, and feed the village with it. And when they have like a someone passes away, an elder or a young person, they have a big potlatch, a big party to celebrate their lives, and there's always a lot of caribou meat there. Yeah. No,
It's fair to say right now too that we were lucky to visit you twice for this episode. We were able to come up here and enjoy everything we're putting together with with Johnny. He wasn't able to come this time, but we're filling in for fantastic work and great work that over the years that you've had. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about the caribou. So while you were there, how much caribou did you actually have to eat? Or did you get to eat? And what did it taste like?
Well, let's put it this way. When I came back, I saw my cardiologist, and my cholesterol was really high.
Wow.
And I tried to blame it on the caribou meat because I did eat a lot of it. And at first she went with that. But of course, 6 months later when they tested, my cholesterol was still high. So it's probably all the pizza I'm eating.
Were you having caribou burgers up there?
Not burgers. No, literally it's like stew or... they put it in everything, because it's readily available when it's available. And you got to remember, like everything's freezing there right up to the end of April, and then starts in again in like almost the middle of August. So they have a cache outside their house where they can, as they kill the caribou, they can sort of butcher what they need and cut them up, and then just put them in the cache, and then they've got food later, and then. During when the ducks come in the spring, they'll shoot some ducks, put those in the freezer, So there's always some meat around, and every once in a while they'll get a moose, and then they'll have a big, lots of that. But yeah, I ate plenty of it, and like my fondest memory was going on a hunt with the guys, and coming back to the camp up in the mountains, because what they do is, we travel. It's about 8 miles up to a little. Like the edge of a ridge where they have a little like sort of makeshift cabin and place that they hang out in the summertime, spend a lot of time up there and use it as a bounce off point to hunt from. So we'd come back there after the hunt. And sometimes when you hunt, we go miles away from there, all the way out. And the cool thing about that place is it's not like around here, this is beautiful. We're in the Catskills.
Yeah.
You can go a mile that way, a mile that way, a mile that way, and hardly see anybody. Maybe a house or two.
Yeah.
Up there, you can go 100 miles to the north. You can go 300 miles to the north. You can go 400 miles to the north. You're not going to see, all you'll see are wolves and bears and caribou and moose and other wildlife. And, another thing I'll talk about on this trip is we did get to fly into the area above the coastal plain that they consider to be so sacred. And the pilot I was with, first of all, I thought it was really cool. I said, can you put us down in a place where we'll see a lot of caribou? He said, oh, let's look around. We flew around. We saw like thousands of caribou. He said, I think this looks like a good spot on this plateau. And he goes, we've never stopped here before, and probably no one's ever walked here before, no humans. And he said, we're going to put this on the map. This is a Scottish airfield. So in the Sadler Roach Mountains, there's a little airfield. It's not an airfield, just a place that supposedly is marked on the GPS with my name, Scottish.
Wow.
It's really cool. But being up there is so neat because it was like, wow, like no human maybe have ever seen this. And I remember a friend of mine who's a skier, a wilderness skier, and my friend Jimmy John had told him, like, when you go up through this one area, you're going to see wolves that have never seen a human being, like never encountered a human. They're going to be curious about you. And sure enough, the wolves were following him, not to eat him.
Just they wanted to know.
The young wolves, like the pups, and then the parents would call them back. But this is a story that this friend of mine had told me about. Yeah, so that was amazing to be able to be like that. So that's what makes that place so special. It's not like here. It's beautiful. It's kind of wild, but that's wild.
That's wild. Yeah.
And it's also very remote. It's like not too many people are going to be able to visit that area and
ever.
Yeah, there's ways to get there. I mean, if
Right.
you wanted, say you said, you know what, seen Scott's movie.
I wanted Scott's
I want to
place.
go there.
Scotch. What is
You
it?
can do
Scott's
it.
itinerary.
Yeah, I mean, you can take the Hall Road, which goes to Prudhoe Bay, and there's places along the way. There's like, national parks areas where you can jump off and hike in and backpack and stuff like that. So you can, if you're like that kind of a person, or you can hire a plane like I did. It was expensive though. I mean,
Right.
to go out for, 8-9 days in 2 locations cost me maybe $8,000, something like that, just for the airfare to be dropped off and picked up.
At today prices, it's $32,000.
Maybe.
The way it's going, by
Inflation.
tomorrow it'll be 40.
I don't know. I'll have to give my pilots, Matt and Emily, a call and see if they've raised their rates.
They're probably at 16, double for sure. I am 1,000% sure. With today's prices.
Yeah.
The last couple of years.
Yeah. So
So, having been able to document and photograph the people there, is there any specific message that you have hoping to share to the world about this project, about the documentary, what these people are living during this time?
yeah. So it's funny. Some people say that journalists per se have to be completely objective about everything. I don't think it's true. I mean, I have my point of view. I went up there. I tried to be as fair about it. I tried to talk to everybody about it. But personally, and I'm sure there's lots of people who disagree with me, I think that they're right. The Gwich'in are correct. That place is so special. The 1002 area, the coastal plain of the Arctic Refuge, and a good portion of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should be off limits to human beings, except to visit, to view it, to just be a light touch. Because there's nothing, we don't have any of that left. There's just not that much of it left, and it's getting worse and worse. And they've had so much taken away from them that I feel like we owe it to them to help them preserve it. So that's what my takeaway is. I went up there to learn. I already felt this way, but I was open to having my mind changed. Like if I went to Prudhoe Bay and I spoke to those people, and I spoke to a lot of people up there, if they convinced me that this oil drilling there was not going to really affect anything, it's not going to be a problem, and they didn't convince me.
So
They didn't. So I think my takeaway is that we should protect wilderness, not just there. Should be really careful with this planet. It's delicate. It's fragile. We already seeing the effects of it. And no, I just think that it's and I think it's important. That's why I've decided to find. I've been back and forth when I should release it.
The world.
The permafrost is collapsing up there. The landscape's changing. The environment's changing, and it seems like it's all the science that I've seen points to that. So that's why I think the movie's important. What I've learned up there just reinforces what I learned in Antarctica from the scientists, and now from the Native Americans and the elders there. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I spoke to people I was in Kaktovik on the coast, and I spoke to activists there who have told me, I don't want to live in an oil field. To other people.
So you didn't really retire. You just found another job.
I don't think I'll ever truly retire.
No, you wouldn't.
I don't think so. I'm just not teaching at
I can
LaGuardia
do that,
anymore.
just teaching,
But I'm up here
absolutely.
now, and I have another film in the works. I don't know if they're going to let me do it, but some of the local farmers around here, I want to share what they have to say and let other people make up their minds about
Voices. It's
their
about,
lives and their thoughts on things.
people having a voice, and helping,
Yeah, photography and film are a good way to give people a voice.
Absolutely. All right, so Scott, where can people see your new documentary, Polar Souls? Will you have a screening? Is there a release date right now for the movie?
Yeah. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm going to submit it to a select group of film festivals. I'm probably going to drop them tonight to a couple film festivals. I won't mention which ones. If I get in, I'll mention it. But now I'm just applying. So that's the first thing I want to do is see what happens with that. Also, I was thinking that maybe we can do a private screening through your podcast so I can release it. Yeah.
Look at that.
We're going to have a...
Yeah, I just thought of that this morning, that this would be a good, after talking so much about my career in the film.
Well, thank you for that.
It'd be a
that
good,
is-
good thing. So,
real,
when you screen this, maybe we can just create a link
Yeah.
and do a private screening for your people, and then
Wow.
close it
There you
up
go.
after.
We're gonna have,
do it for like a few days, and then we'll take it down. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
that's one way they'll be able to see it, and then in the future. Yeah, I'll have some success with the movie, and it'll get
So
picked
for
up.
our
and we'll
subscribers
see it.
only, we're gonna have.
Exactly.
How about that? So
So
you
please
guys
sub-
subscribe, and
please
we're gonna
like
give you
and subscribe.
Like, subscribe, and once you subscribe, you're gonna get the free screening to watch the movie.
There you
That's
go.
great, amazing,
Thank you,
amazing
Scott.
news. Thank you, Scott. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah, so that's down the road, depending on what happens with it, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I will eventually open it up so that anybody in the general public will be able to see it.
Awesome.
Yeah, but for now, film festivals, private screening.
Nice. All right. Now, having said that, we have a little segment that we do on our episodes, and it's called This or That. And what we do is we choose
Scotch or Romeo?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna put you up to that.
So what we do is we choose two subjects, and you get to pick only one. And
Okay.
it could be anything. I mean, for whatever reason you want to pick one or the other, but you can only pick one.
Okay.
So
I'm ready.
You're ready? All right.
Okay, what's the first?
So there's been a little debate about focal length in our podcast, and there's two prime lenses that are very popular, and that is the 50 millimeter and the 35 millimeter of focal length. Which one would Scott pick?
and they said I can't choose both.
You
so-
cannot choose both.
Yeah. So, I would have to go with the wide angle version. I like 50s. I carry a 50 often, but I think I more often carry a wider lens, a 35 or a 28. So I would say 35 gives me more versatility. I can always crop in if need be to get a little tighter shot. And then if there's more going on, I'm in a small space. I have the advantage of the 35 plus. I get the added advantage of greater depth of field on the wide angle lens. So
That's something I didn't even think about, but
yeah.
yeah. And our last, one of our episodes, I think we all chose 35. Even Johnny, which we were kind of surprised.
No, he chose 50.
No, he
Freaking guy.
chose 35. He surprised us with the 35. But I always felt like, to me, like the 35 is just the way to go. It's great street photography lens, and you can pretty much shoot anything with it. And it's you don't feel like you're too tight. You don't feel like you're too far away. It's just perfect.
When the question arose at the time, I had this feeling for the 50 millimeter. I really don't really like it. It's not that I don't like. I mean, we learned through. It's perfect.
I'm gonna say I don't like it. I've never liked the 50 millimeter. I don't like it now. I didn't like it then, and that's just the way I feel about it.
I'm going to say, just to clarify things, depending on what camera format you're using also depends on what lens I'm using, because
Very good point.
A portable camera, the 35 makes a lot of sense to me, but
You
this
know-
baby back here, that's a 305 on there now.
Johnny-
The 305 equates to basically almost a 50 millimeter, a little less than 50.
Yeah,
so.
Johnny made the point that
Okay, well, you're right.
well, Johnny made the point that I'm shooting with my
Actually, he did say
Rolleiflex, which is a 80
That was the best point
millimeter
of them all.
on a medium format, but on a 35, it's a 50 millimeter focal equivalent. The main thing, or I guess my rebuttal to that was that it's a square format. And I think that makes a difference between shooting 2:3 and a 1:1 ratio. I think it really doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you can't go too wide, but on a square format, it's like it really doesn't matter, because you are composing the image in a different way. It's just completely a different.
Yeah, so
said. Yeah.
Depending on your format, would might change the answer.
So question number 2, color photography. We're talking film here. So color photography or black and white?
Well, I mean, pretty easy for me because most of my work's black and white. You know, I think if I had to make the choice, I'd go black and white. I love color photography, though. I mean, like right there on the wall, there's that very graphic, bold color statement.
Bright.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I love color photography. I think it's got a complexity to it that's different than black and white. Black and white's more about the essentials, refining everything down to its essence, whereas color photography is also essential, but I don't know, color affects your perception in such a way. So, yeah, but black and white is my answer. It's my answer, but I love color. I shoot in color.
Try X400, baby.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
And also, wait a second, that's
Ektachrome,
color.
yeah.
Ektachrome.
You're clashing here, Scott. You're clashing.
Notice that it's 64 tungsten.
Yeah.
So that's like what
Tungsten
we used to use in the
balance.
studio back in the day, right?
Actually, I think I shot Ektachrome with 4.5 when I went to Colombia, and that's a beautiful, beautiful film stock.
It is.
But the majority of my work's black and white. I was raised on black and white. Although, I mean, when I was at Ohio University, I mean, I took a couple color photography classes and learned so much. And really, at that time, that's when, Eggleston, Stephen Shore.
Saw Lighter.
Yeah, they were all like blossoming
Yeah.
at that point. That's when all of a sudden in the early 70s, color photography became the art form and became popular. And I think now...
Joel Meyerowitz.
Yeah,
as well.
Meyerowitz, of course.
Yeah.
All those names. So, yeah. So, but for me, it's black and white.
Let's put... Okay,
Guitar Manfrotto.
I'm gonna put 2 photographers. I'm gonna give you 2 photographers.
Okay. That's
let's
good.
do that.
That's
All
a
right.
good.
Oh, okay. So I know kind of your influences a little bit.
Well,
I'm going to say
Sebastian Salgado. No, I'm just kidding.
no Sebastian Salgado. It's going to be Walker Evans versus Robert Frank. That's a good
Trying
one.
to hurt me here.
That's a good one.
But it's not that hard for me though, because Walker Evans was like my biggest influence. Period. The end.
Amazing.
Oh, really?
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
That was easy. And I was lucky at LaGuardia, thanks to Hugo Fernandez, Professor Fernandez, and his connections to Yale University, and John Hill, who controls the Walker Evans estate. He was able to bring a massive show of Walker Evans work to LaGuardia Community College, to our galleries in our facility. And it was up for, 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe I can even find some footage from that for you guys. But yeah, so Walker Evans was my biggest influence.
I can say that I've exhibited in the same area as Walker Evans. We have.
Bruce Davidson.
I'm sorry.
Bruce Davidson as well.
I when I was studying, I was like really into Ed Weston.
Edward Weston, and you remember showing us the pepper.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Beautiful lighting. I mean, have you ever seen that image? It's just
I was raised on like that, hardcore. I mean, you couldn't get more hardcore than Weston, right? With like he wouldn't even enlarge his work. Everything had to be a contact print for the quality of the image. Whereas Walker Evans spoke to some of his assistants because we did have a couple of times when we actually had people come down from Yale and talk about him, and they said his negatives were horrible. Like he would develop them like in the freaking bathtub, I guess, But he wasn't that concerned with the technique, But still, they're still able because he's shooting 810. Like you can take bad exposures on an 810 and still make it come out good. Just got so much density and so much surface area on the film. So, but Walker Evans. I love Robert Frank. I told you I hitchhiked across the country because I saw his book.
I wanted to make it a little bit difficult for you, but
but no,
obviously
Walker Evans, he's my mantra almost. It's like I always go back to him.
Okay,
Interesting.
Right. Here's the next one here. we're gonna stick with the photographers. Joel Mauritz versus Gary Winogrand.
Ooh, for street photo. Let's see. So Meyerowitz, known for both street and 8x10 color, right? So he did a lot of different things. Whereas Winogrand, the king of street photography, really.
Yeah.
When he died, there was still, 20,000 frames undeveloped. So he was a monster of street. So, and Joel Meyerowitz's street photography is cool. It's color, except for his early work, right? The early work is black and white. Then he switched to color, and it was color all the way. If you're just talking street, I'd have to go with Winogrand. Just more prolific, huge body of work of street photography. And there's some images by him from the street that just stick in my head, that shot of the women in the 60s walking down the street with the light coming from behind them, passing right in front of the man in the wheelchair. The juxtaposition is incredible. The light's incredible. And just the fact that guy was there at that moment, prepared, to take the shot was amazing. A lot of people criticize him. They say, he was just anybody could do what he did. If you took as many pictures as Winogrand, I think that's BS. You kidding? Go ahead and try it.
He had a very unique style to shooting street photography, which now I think people are kind of mimicking, and it's just kind of right in your face. It's very awkward kind of style as well. He was just
Are you calling me awkward? Calling me awkward?
He would just basically just grab the camera, and he was just kind of looking around, and then all of a sudden he just pop it, in people's faces, and it was just a very strange way, but it worked.
I do that sometimes, though.
It worked.
I do that sometimes when I'm
it worked for
in a corner.
It worked for him, and it was just he was one of the masters.
Yeah, so I love both of them, but street, Winogrand all the way. Yes.
So capture the moment versus create the moment.
Ooh, capture the moment. Is that
I think there's a very fine line right there.
That's like Bresson and just the decisive moment versus actually creating a shot, whether it's posed.
I want to know your experience, because I have a very, very conflictive, opinion on this.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking capture versus create, right?
Taking shooting the decisive moment versus actually creating a shot, maybe a portrait or something that's
my career, I've done both. I'm studio photographer for years, had my own studios, and taking portraits of people, and that's a little bit of both. You sort of are feeling, trying to work and create the rapport with the subject and all that, but ultimately, the moment that you're capturing, even in a whole set that you built and set up, a lot of it is still
create.
It's
a creation.
It's a creation. Yeah, it's also though capturing a moment that's wasn't there before. You didn't create the moment. The moment is this, whatever happens with the person or. And being
there is a moment that you find that you
intuition.
Click, because you can be taking several pictures, even for a portrait, until there's one moment where you're that's the look, and you're just that. I want that look.
Yeah, and I think they're two different, completely two different things. I think for me, capturing a decisive moment like Bresson is just capturing a specific moment in time. I think that's rewarding. It's a rewarding feeling when you capture something that you weren't even thinking about, and it's you click on it, you click it, and when you see it, it's it's there.
Just to say, if you read about Bresson, for instance, he would go to a place and wait for the light to be just right, and find the right geometry.
That is
and
true.
And then So it's almost like he's creating it.
That's where I wanted to go.
It's
So-
two
And
in
then
one.
he's waiting for the serendipity
Right.
of
You are
the person
creating
to
it.
pass through and be in the right place at the right time, and that's the decisive moment. But
Right.
without the other part,
But then-
it probably
then-
wouldn't happen.
But then there isn't a decisive moment in his actual decisive moment theory. And this is why I defer.
Well, I think the moment itself-
the decisive moment is when you decide before the creation, because you're right. I have taken images where I like exactly like that. I want this. I hope this for this to happen. I seen that this is going to happen, so I'm expecting it, and I'm waiting for that moment. But I already created the image in my head, but I'm waiting for something to happen. Versus, oh my God, this is happening. This is happening now.
I call that the moment of recognition. And what I mean by that is throughout your life, you've seen thousands of photographs. You've seen things that weren't even photographs that were just attractive to you the way they looked in front of your eye. And then all of a sudden, there you are with your camera, and then you see something you've seen in the past. It's not exactly what you've seen. It's the quality of light. It's the way someone's moving. It's another photograph you've seen that's great. And then it all comes together in that moment of recognition. That's what I like to call that. But
There's actually studies about that. I heard somebody talking about, how we, even for artists, for painters, where they're like creating stuff, and but there's actually, they created something from another artist that they didn't even know they even saw it before, or but they might have just looked at it from a page in the back of the TV, but the brain absorbed it a certain way. So that's great. Yeah,
I can give you a good example really quickly. This photograph I took of Pharoah Sanders at a jazz club years and years ago, and he's in like striking light. And I showed it to the sax player David Murray, and he looked at it and he goes, That's an African mask. It looks just like an African mask. And I said, wow, maybe that's why I recognized that moment. Like I saw that mask in my mind and took the picture. I don't know. But, that I always remembered that he said that. I said, oh, that's so cool that he interpreted my photograph that way. And maybe I did too. I don't know, because it happened in a split second, right?
Yeah.
Split second.
Awesome. So that was the this or that. Scott, you are now experienced in our in the this or that segment. We were in the LaGuardia program at the end of our.
School time. It was my last class actually for the trip that I did.
Yeah, you guys were about to graduate.
Yeah, I was about to graduate.
Back in 2012, we were able to go to this trip to Chile, and we spent a month in Chile. We started in Santiago, and we spent a few weeks in Patagonia, which was some of the most amazing landscapes and experiences I've ever had in travel. So, can you tell us a little bit about that trip, Scott?
Yeah, well, so that was like the thing that just came about. It wasn't something that I had planned, but I was prepared for it, because all the travel I had done before. And one day, my buddy, Bruce Brooks, Professor Brooks, head of the art area, visual arts coordinator, came to me and he said, hey, Hugo and I found this grant or something like this, State Department grant, to go to Chile. And at the time, the college was collaborating to start, or had already started, a community college in Santiago. So it was like the administration was down with it because this was part of what they were trying to promote. So originally, it was funny, they wrote the grant without me there. And they were like, just to go to the city. That was it. We're just going to Santiago. And we're going to visit the community college. And we're going to interact with those students, blah, 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 blah. So when they came to me, and they had enough money for 2 trips or 3 trips. And they came to me and I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, I'm going to Patagonia. Like, we're going to explore Chile. How can you go to Chile and not go to Patagonia? Mm-hmm. And that's my expertise, like wilderness travel, camping.
Yeah.
And they said, okay. So
thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott.
So I put together this proposal, and then I even got them to give me, I don't know, just enough money for airfare and hotels. And I went down there like 6 months before the trip, or maybe a year before. I can't remember. And I met Gerardo, our guide, and another guy I checked out, and I traveled to Chiloé Island, a place that you guys didn't get to go, but went to Chiloé, went to on the kayaking trip through the fjords, went down to Patagonia Park and Pumalin, the hot springs, the whole thing, everything that we did together.
Yeah.
I did first to make sure that it was
Safe.
and
Doable.
right.
You know,
Yeah, and I went to Valparaiso.
Yeah, beautiful,
Spent a few days
beautiful
there,
city.
Went to Santiago. So I checked it all out and then wrote the proposal. And then I put together a way of choosing the students. And you guys got chosen. I won't go into that whole process.
Yeah.
And then we did our little orientations and things like that. And we flew down to Chile.
So-
and we spent, 3 weeks, I think, or a month?
A month.
A month.
A
It was
full
4
month.
weeks.
I think we spent 3 weeks in Patagonia,
Yeah.
1 week in Santiago and Valparaiso.
Yes.
I was lucky. I stayed for an extra month.
Yeah, you stayed afterwards.
I got my first solo international exhibition
Yeah.
at a gallery at the time. So
Oh,
I
cool.
was able to.
Like, I don't even remember that. I vaguely remember
right
that.
after I stayed, I there was a gallery that they also had set up and opened up a gallery in Valparaiso from Queens, and I used to volunteer, help them out, just be connected to them. I'm still, connected to the people there,
Nice.
and it just happened at the same time. She's the director of the gallery said, send me your portfolio and let me see what you're gonna do. And of course I was gonna do naked pictures, and I did my first
Yeah.
naked show out in a gallery in Chile.
So each one of us had a project. There was 12 students. 12 students, right?
Yeah.
12 students.
In Pancho.
And Pancho.
Three faculty
And
members.
Minerva.
Oh, yeah.
And Diane.
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 Diane did did something. She taught something there, like to a couple of the students. So
Tai Chi.
but basically,
Tai Chi.
Tai Chi.
Patience for sure.
Patience.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so
So we each had
No,
a.
somebody else taught us patience.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh yeah. We
Yes.
each had a project. Sebastian, I remember you and I can't remember who else was doing 4 or 5 large format projects there.
Right.
You focused on your naked portraits.
Yeah.
Which you managed to get most people to
I got
take their
Scott
clothes
right
off.
here.
Definitely.
It was so fantastic. It was. I thought it was just great to have that image. When I saw the wild horses, I said, "This is Scott. Like he's a wild horse, So he's gonna be, photographed there, and he takes his camera's like, Scott, can you please, do this? He's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And it was great. It was amazing.
no, you have that touch, man. You have that ability to get people to do what you want to do.
Absolutely.
You got
That's,
that kind of respect, and I respected you, and I wanted to help. Of course, I'm there. My main reason on that trip was not for me to take photos; it's for y'all to take photos.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Photographing with the large format 4x5 was, to me, a very. It was a learning experience, but it was just
Very unique,
fulfilling as well.
Yeah.
Very fulfilling. I still have some of those shots.
Exercising.
And, yeah, heavy camera. It was a metal Toyo field camera.
Yeah.
But it was just an amazing trip. We had a great time. That's where Johnny, Sebastian, and I kind of became close during that trip. And it was. We connected. We definitely connected. And we have some lifelong friendships because of that trip.
But we're here.
And we're here.
And we're here.
13 years
I
later.
wanted to say, like, your foundation as a portrait photographer, I think really you learned a lot on that trip, especially using 4x5, because you had to, like, pay attention to the camera and
slow down
slow it down and compose. And I remember you were really into it. You would just talk to the people, and you had the advantage you could speak Spanish, which was really good. So I think that was like, it was the spark for you. I mean, I could be wrong. You tell me.
No, absolutely. That was one of the main experiences where I just it was a trip where I just focused on photography, and it was from there it just kind of like. I just started going to all these different places, and it was, and 100%. And one thing we want to mention is, we were talking about in the last episode about a wide angle and like shooting with wide angle. There was this image I saw in your office at the time, and it was this one of the subjects from Alaska that was in a canoe, or he was on a boat, and
just about to go upriver.
Yeah, he was kind of pointing, and you shot him with your 16 to 35, I believe. That's
Yeah,
what you have?
you got it at the time, yeah.
16 or 35. And I remember sitting in your office and looking at that image, and I was just wondering, it's like, what focal length? Because it was the very beginning, and I was like not familiar with like focal range and stuff like that. And, you know, we've had a little bit of arguments with Johnny a little bit about what a portrait lens is and what the focal length should be. But seeing that image just kind of inspired me to like take the wide angle environmental portraits, and I made it a big part of like my photography, my style.
That's for sure. Yeah.
And it's because of you. I mean, that was it was an inspiration. It was definitely an inspiration.
That's why I was there
Yeah.
to like facilitate you guys becoming photographers. You know, whenever you actually are successful, I'm super happy about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's not easy to become a photographer as a profession. And, you know, even if it's not as a full-time thing, I know you've hung in there with it, and I know that you're still doing it.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Now you guys are, you know,
Definitely
diving
passionate
back in.
about, you know,
Now that's what we're
this
talking
world.
about. We're talking
Right.
about photography, and you guys are becoming, in a way, educators because you're passing on your knowledge, right?
So with all that said, Scott, what has photography given you that you appreciate the most, that has touched you to the core?
Like the thing about being a photographer that's like maybe the most crucial thing, yeah? The most important thing. Yeah, so, you know, like I was thinking that there's photographs all around me. My great-grandfather is a photographer. My grandfather, my father liked to photograph. So, I mean, photography has been just such a core part of my life. But the thing, I've thought about this a lot, that really is so great about being a photographer for me was the actual experiences. You know, the photographs are great to have, and they're, you know, some of them are terrific, and they're essential and all that, but they're just a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. You know, they're ephemera. They're eventually everything we do is going to fade away. But that actual experience I had with these people, and the, you know, the license that being a photographer gives you to meet people that you would never, wouldn't even, why are you talking to me? But when you say, I'm a photographer,
Right.
and I want to learn about you,
Right.
and I want to photograph you so I can remember you.
Right.
It's like the actual experience of having to meet these people, of living in Alaska, for instance, or all the people I met on Monticello Avenue in Jersey City, or all the farmers up here that I became so friendly with. And on, the people on the U.S. trip, when I was in Mexico, in every place I've gone, being able to engage and say, I'm a photographer, and I want to know you, and having people then say, okay, which they would never do. It would be too awkward and stupid to just say that to people. But for me, I think that's it. That's like, I can live this life and have these experiences and make these friendships and experience people who I would never know about. Who the heck would ever go live in a village in in the Arctic and have that opportunity and be able to go back over and over again and be accepted and have people stand in front of my camera for, this camera, it's a pain in the neck. They have to stand there forever, and they do it because they appreciate the fact that I want to give them a voice and I want to remember them. And I don't know, I think that's it. It's the actual experience. Like I could never, like the times that, the photographs you see, like Kristen Gorman, like the conversations I had with her and being out there with the penguins and the smell of the sea air on the islands in Antarctica. I can't convey that with a film, with a picture. I can give you a hint of it. And the better the picture, the better the taste. But it's just a taste. The real thing was being there. Being there. So for me, that's it. I'd say I'm
Awesome.
grateful for it. I'm grateful for it.
Awesome answer. Thank you, Scott. We definitely want to thank you for being our first guest in our podcast, our
This has
show.
been fantastic.
It's been awesome spending time with you, meeting up with you again after all these years, and just kind of like experiencing a little bit of your retirement and like this beautiful home in the Catskills that you have. You built this beautiful studio. I mean, like you just mentioned, I mean, you're not a LaGuardia anymore, but you're not retired. You're,
Right.
you're still working. You're still
Definitely working hard.
And
we can see it.
we can see it. I mean, it's a beautiful place that you have here, and thank you for
For
welcoming
inviting
us.
right?
Yeah.
You and Cheryl,
Great to have you guys here.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so
fantastic.
much. We have to
Anytime.
we
My
have to
kids-
mention Cheryl as well. She was amazing with us.
Oh my God, my son has to call her. I forgot.
Your son, Rio, is invited here anytime he wants to come. Cheryl said that, and believe me, that's not the case for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott.
And before we wrap this up, Scott, what is your mantra that you've taught us all?
Exposed for shadows, develop for highlights.
There you go, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Awesome.
Until
Thank you,
next time.
guys. Thank you,
Saudi
Scott.
16.
All right.
Glad you got that in, man.